Welcome everybody to a new collective energy update for energetically sensitives and empaths. Yes, we are live and whew, this is going to be an interesting week. This is going to be an interesting energy update here for those of you who've been following me or for those of you who tune in for the very first time. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy coach, I'm an energy healer, and I'm an energy trainer. I help professionals to integrate energy work into their existing professions. And this is live from our new Florida outdoor studio. So I'm not sure if this is going to work out. We're trying to find the right timing here where we have the least external disturbances and background noises. So I hope you have a good audio, guys. And once I'm going to start hearing you, and or better say, seeing you here on my live dashboard, please let me know if you have a good audio, if you have a good video, and where you guys are from and how you're doing. The reason why I'm doing this live, as you know, is to tune in with you and to answer questions, or perhaps, you know, just reflect on some of the personal things that you're going through. Yes, and you're starting to come in. Welcome to South Africa. So cool, Matthew, to have you here. Maybe this new time works a little better for you now. Write me a comment here about the timing, the 11 a.m. or 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, how this works for you. All right. Can you feel it? All right. So there's a quickening in the air. Okay. There's a new sort of shift, obviously, but there's also a new kind of energy coming in here that I could only describe as life force. And life force is tricky, okay? So I wanted to spare you guys this bifurcated arrow here, because I think it's really important that we go into this healing potential, all right, that is coming in here with October, and especially this week here, October 6th till 12th. That we, take this opportunity, okay? And I'm going to go a little more into this here today, into the emotional and relationship aspects, but I'm also going to go into a subject that people have commented on in the past. And, at the end of this live stream, or towards the end, I'm going to cover something that I normally don't cover, and that's like how, light and dark and, the good guys and the bad guys and all this, how all of this relates, to these collective energies that we are all dealing with. And hello there. Yes, I can see you. You coming in from Arizona, from Canada. It's so good to see you here. Yes. All right. Good audio, good video. Thank you, guys. Timing is great. Love it. Yeah, let me know. I mean, it doesn't really matter, because those of you who subscribe to the channel, those of you who subscribe to my emails, you get the edited version, which also, has a little bit of a write-up to it, and more, like infographics and more explanation anyway. England, welcome. So good to have you here, Nadia. Yes, Margot, you're feeling this energy. It's buzzing and vibrating, and it feels like changes are coming, and they feel pretty good. Well, whether or not they're going to be good for us, this really depends on how we learn to contextualize this. So learning is a big aspect here for the entire month of October. There's a reflective part, an inventory part to these October energies, and they're coming in very strongly right now. So many of you feel this as, the sense of urgency. And if you're a bit more on the anxiety range of alignment, then this may feel a little disconcerting for you, because it feels like something big's going to happen. But I want you to really breathe into this and understand that this something is going to happen, doesn't mean that, oh my God, I got to, do something about this. I got to try to control this. No, This is coming in for you as an increase of life force, guys. This is why I'm calling this quickening. And an increase of life force can trigger different things in us. It can trigger really deep healing on a level that was previously unseen for us, but it can also trigger our deepest shadow aspects because it plays directly into who am I? Okay, and this who am I identity crisis that has been going on here for a couple of months, all right, can come to a resolution now by you renewing the commitment to yourself and really devoting yourself to your journey here in this 3D life. And you know me, I can go into the depth of a spiritual and esoteric meaning of things, but we are here in a place and time right now where it's very important for us to understand that the reason why we're here and the reason why we chose this time in global or collective evolution is because we chose to be here. We chose to witness this. We chose maybe even to come here with a certain purpose. And as this life force is rising in us, and many of you sometimes call this Kundalini rising, okay, and it's sort of idolized or romanticized in those esoteric circles as the sort of spiritual awakening. But what most people don't really understand is that this is actually not just a spiritual emergence, but it also leads to can lead to a very deep spiritual emergency. Okay, because when your life force rises, you begin to feel more what it is that you need. You begin to feel more where you've made compromises or where you've lived in an illusion. You start feeling your sexual energies coming up, and you start feeling like this is something bad, or you start feeling guilty about this, or all these things. This in German, there's a word for this. I don't really know what the English word for this would be, but those of you out there who are German and English speaking, you can maybe give me inspirations here. It's the word Aufbruch, Aufbruchstimmung. Okay, there's something that breaks open in you, and this can lead to a pivotal development in your journey, but it can also lead to a healing crisis. And I want to talk about this here today a little bit because there's this notion that when you're not feeling all peachy, or when you're getting a little sick, or when your body doesn't function right, or when you're feeling low, that this is a sign that you're not there yet. Okay, this is a sign that you're not good enough, or that you have to try harder. This is really important for you guys to get this out of your brain. I mean, out of your spiritual, your etheric brain. Okay, because your journey, your spiritual maturity, your evolution has nothing to do with performing in any way of sorts. It has nothing to do with comparing or comparison with others. Okay, this is a ego con job, and if you keep falling into this, if you keep bashing yourself or judging yourself based on whatever, I see those articles all over, the 10 signs that you're ascending, or the 12 steps to enlightenment. You got to be really, really careful with this, because your ego is immediately gonna sort of reflect this back onto you as in like, yeah, I'm there, oh shoot, I'm not there yet. And what does this mean? After all this work that I've put in, or after all this effort, how come I'm not better? Okay, so this is very important for you to let this go. Many of you were in this really deep letting go last week, the last 2 weeks. Here at transCODES, we were working with redemption energies, and these are coming in here very strongly for this week, October 6th till 12th. Okay, but redemption not in this sort of externalized authority, or this somebody's judging me based on how far I am with my spiritual development. No, in the sense of, self-correcting, self-reflecting, and also making amends. This all starts within ourselves, guys. This is, to learn how to absolve yourself from some of your karmic, some of your inner child, your family stuff, your shadow stuff, is probably the single most important part of healing. Because before you get to that place where you can simply accept all parts of you and love all parts of you, you're going to go through this ego hell, of constantly judging yourself. So please understand that, the main purpose of your spiritual, or even your 3D journey here, is improvement, is evolution. And if you don't really know, how the divine does it, then I recommend you to look at nature. Just look at how nature evolves. It does it with this full sort of zest, of life force. And yes, there's ups and downs to things, there's cycle to things, and there's, devastation, and then there is correction, and then it equals itself out. And in the process of all of this, it learns, to become responsive. It learns to go into feedback with the environment, to go into feedback with other people. And this is kind of like the theme here for October. And if you haven't done so, watch the October energy forecast that I posted yesterday. This was recorded last week, and many of us have already worked with these energies. So those of you who were there in the energetic adjustment session in September, where we sort of let these energies of the new months come and go through us and see, what it will trigger in us and how we can best respond to this. You're already familiar with this quickening, okay? So understand that this space that is being created here for all of us is extremely healing, but it can also be extremely challenging. And of course, as always, don't underestimate the issue that people have with these kind of energies, that are not fully aware, that are not able to contextualize any, of these inner, sort of drives and urges and even, sort of collapses. Okay, so there's a little bit of an identity crisis that comes here with these energies this week, and the trick is, to work with all these identifications that you have taken on in the course of your journey as part of your false self, to accept them, and then to improve them. So the idea is, that you learn to love yourself the way you are, but without false identifications. Okay? So yes, we all have an energetic identity. We all have a sort of unique signature, that is linked into our energy body. And this is what we do here as energy code workers, to help you interpret this, to help you contextualize this, because we can see your energy signature. And we see that there are certain propensities and certain potentials that you have. And in the end, our journey really becomes all about accepting those and not resisting those. So those of you who were here with me last week for the self-mastery class, where we go through a certain emotional state or a certain energetic pattern and take it apart and really, look at sort of what are the healing strategies here, the holistic healing strategies to work with this. You've heard me say this. Pain, is something that we all experience, and pain is a big part of our learning experience. But suffering is a choice. Suffering is a choice. We can experience pain without suffering. And childbirth is probably the closest to, at least the female population here, understanding this in its deep essence. We can go through pain and see that this healing crisis or this birthing pain that we are experiencing is important. And we can love ourselves for, the ways we deal with it, the ways we respond to this. Because at the end, we know that it will lead to something new, and it will open us up to seeing ourselves as co-creator, not as performer. These are all dualities of your ego. These are all the stuff, that comes, forward as your false self and as your shadows. So this week, guys, is all in the sense of responsiveness, reflecting, improving, learning, refining, starting something new, really going into this co-creatorship with divine creation, okay? And I know many of you are feeling this, and all I can say to you guys is, what are you waiting for? Go for it. Let's change. But then we have these collective cycles that come in, and I talked about this in the energy forecast a bit. There is a cycle that brings us back to energies at the springtime here of this year, March energies. So anything that sort of started to come up in you and that wanted to come into expression in March, and where you have started to initiate changes, but then sort of got kind of, ran out of steam, or you got kind of, I called it, suckered into your comfort zone again. All right, these things have to be revisited. But there's also a larger cycle, and that's a cycle that brings us back to 8 years from now. I've mentioned this, I think, even in the energy forecast for 2018. Where were you 2011? 2010? What started there? What were some of these, like, sort of really big revelations that you had, and new sort of decisions that you made there? This is the larger cycle that is coming in, and it will bring forward, a lot of things where you have to admit to yourself, oh shoot, I didn't really handle that too well, or shoot, I got, I settled again, I made compromises again. Oh shoot, I tolerated, I enabled, I sucked up things that I shouldn't have sucked up. And this is the time here, guys, where you want to look at these things. And it's also the time in regards to relationships where we may want to go back and make amends. But we have to start with ourselves, and really get along with ourselves in the whole process without judging ourselves. One other aspect that is very particular to this week, guys, is finding a voice for our powerlessness, finding a voice for, these things that we have sucked up in the past. And, really giving our forgiveness and our amends a voice. So this is why, I'm seeing this week as a wonderful opportunity for healing. But collectively, this can be a little tricky. Yes, Matthew, you had a heart attack in 2011. Okay, so this is a really good sort of benchmark for you. What led up to this? What were the things that you could identify back then that, sort of as sort of that needed to be improved, that you didn't approach right? What are some of the new approaches that developed or started developing for you in 2010, 2011? And this is where you want to go back to and, see if you can use this quickening now, to give this the push that it needs to really come into materialization, come into realization, okay? Many of us have started things then, but we kind of did it half-ass. Or, like I've said, we got pulled into our comfort zone. And when I talk about the forces of light and dark here at the end, I want to send a message up front. The biggest enemy here on our journey, guys, is not the existence of darkness. In fact, the existence of darkness is merely the absence of light. And therefore, the biggest enemy we're dealing with here is our complacency of normal, our perception of normal, and what we perceive as okay for us, or as what is good for us, and what we perceive that is not good for us. And the only way to pierce through this, the only way to discern this, guys, is to stop trying to use your mind. Stop trying to use your body. Stop trying to use your emotions, to figure out, whether something is good for you or not. Stop using your fear, to discern, whether something is good for you or not. If you align to fear, the result of whatever choice you're making, is based on a lower vibratory alignment, and therefore any choice that comes out of this, any, seeming solution will be based on lower vibratory frequencies. So I want to send this sort of post-it note out to you here until we get to this place when we talk about dark and light, okay, that it's your contextualization of dark and light that is the problem. The conditioning, the collective conditioning that we all have with the good guys and the bad guys, that's a con job of the ego, guys. This is something that pulls you back into the duality of your 3D, humanness. And this is why so many of you resent and resist being human. Because you haven't figured out yet that you chose this duality, but only to find ways to transcend it, okay? So those of you who are with me here on this whole sort of divine comedy line of things, you may see, the beauty in this, and you may see, the gain aspect to this. But anyway, let's move forward here in the energy report. The chakras, the energy centers that will primarily be triggered here this next week will be our first, okay, like deep karmic inner child, unresolved hidden things, and 4th, 5th, and 6th. And this is a wonderful combination. What does 4th mean? That's your heart chakra. It reminds you to go back into your feeling, and into, sort of, the ways you approach things, like the balance between giving and receiving, the balance of, sort of energies coming in and the energies that you, how you respond with this. And then the 5th chakra, your throat chakra, that allows you to give all of this an expression, to give your truth a voice. And along with this, so we had this the last 2 weeks in fragments here, but along with this comes your 6th chakra, your third eye, that is now opened up, that is now clear. This was part of the pains that we had, the migraines and the issues with fogginess and so forth the last 2 weeks, was our third eye really sort of getting this upgrade and wanting to be, blown, out. And so this is a little painful. So those of you who didn't resist this and came here, in transCODES, where we offer these energy sessions where we go into this deep underworld, into this deep dream world or lunar world with you and observe your energies. Those of you who actively worked with this, you got this after 1 or 2 sessions. All right. So here is the learning aspect of all of this. So with this combination of energy centers, guys, what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to see is, first of all, how you unresolved stuff, how you hidden stuff, your inner darkness, how that is influencing the way you feel about things, you perceive things, and you express them. But at the same time, you get this like larger picture, you get this third eye vision, even if you don't see yourselves as, clairvoyant, precognitive, or particularly psychic. We are all psychic, guys. This is a sense that we all have. All right, we just need to learn how to use this technology. It's like if somebody gave you, like a spell or something, and you don't know how to use it. Okay, so, to see the larger picture along with, developing a stronger sense for your own truth and the urge to bring this into expression is a beautiful, beautiful foundation, for, bringing things in order, for making things work better, for making your relationships work better, for making your job or your attitude towards your business work better, to make your relationships with your clients better, or to just make your own relationship with the world, and how you place yourself here in this world better, so that you don't constantly feel like you're in the wrong movie, you're in the wrong script, you're displaced, you don't belong here. Those are all parts of the duality of your ego. Okay, and this week will help us with this. Now, collectively, I mentioned this already, this isn't always easy because most people don't even know what's going on. And when it comes to shadow traits of the collective, well, we're getting a really good taste of this right now, collectively, politically. Okay, so there's this global shadow arising or coming forward. Why is it coming forward? Because it needs to be healed. Okay, so it's not because it's coming forward because the forces of darkness, are taking over. No, it's what allows us to evolve into this next level of light, into this next level of protection too. So our societies will be healthier if they can process their shadows. And one of these shadows, as you can see right now, has to do with feminine energies, has to do with this gender equality thing, and also the identity problems that all our nations have right now. There's no clear leadership, and the kind of leadership that comes forward in these years or in these times, is like theatrical, it's polarizing, it's relativistic, and not really representing the people. So there's this rift between the people out there that represent our countries, or that represent our party, or that represent our church, or whatever, that represent our company, and you feel like completely disconnected from it because it's like a caricature of itself, so there is no truth level in it, and we can all feel it, people can feel it, and this is where these sort of revolutionary energies come in. So for this week here, we're gonna be looking at more of this Me Too movement. There's a important purpose to this, namely for all these, and it's not just for females, but it's to give all this powerlessness a voice, the place that we've all been in, where we've figured that it's futile, to speak up, or to go against establishment, or to go against sort of the existing power structures. So this is collectively working here for us. And I've mentioned this on many occasions. This will also be why people like us, the empaths, sort of the fringe dwellers of the past, why we will have this really strong revival in the next 10, 15 years. And where it's safe for us to come out of the woodwork, where we don't have to mute ourselves, or where we don't have to suppress, these things, the way we see the world. Okay, but there's a healing crisis, there's a catharsis that needs to happen first for people to actually realize what the problem is. Okay, so for those of you who already are healers, or who are already considering to integrate healing in whatever way into your career, get ready for a lot of people needing your vision and your experience, and also your healing path, you having gone through so much pain there, as advice, as guidance. Yes, Denmark, I'm seeing you too, and Chicago, I'm seeing you. Hey guys, good to have you here. All right, so let's look at one more thing, earth changes, because people always ask me, so what do you see for this week? I mean, as you know, I'm not a clairvoyant, but what I'm seeing here for October especially, besides it's still been hurricane season, and stuff like that, I'm seeing diseases that will come more into the foreground, and diseases that are linked to water, that come maybe through the water or out of the water, something similar that you're seeing in North Carolina right now, where they're still dealing with flood from the hurricane, where suddenly new breeds, new types of mosquitoes are being, sort of breeding and being released into the atmosphere. And hey, Australia! Hope this time works well for you guys. Okay, energy tips, real quick, guys. Physically, this is not new for you, but it really comes in very strongly this week. Self-care. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your own needs. If you are neglecting your own needs, guys, you can't really feel truth. Period. Because you're in this habit of constantly sort of sucking things up or pressing things down or just sort of managing your pain, that you have become desensitized to, what is my body actually telling me. And I've said this in the energy update, in the energy forecast for October. You've got to listen to your body. Your body is a really important part of your energetic sensitivity. Your body don't lie, okay? And all these energies, all these suppressed energies and sucked up energies, they got to go somewhere, and they're going to end up in the densest level of your energy body over time. So the older you get, the more you will feel these physical ailments as a result of unresolved, inner, negativity or darkness or suffering. Okay, so you got to take care of your body. This is like the last call for you guys to take care, of your needs. Now, how is this going to play out for next week? I'm expecting people to have throat issues, sinus issues. You can see this now. Why? Fifth chakra aspects, continued heart, head issues, and things related to your nervous system and your neurotransmitters. One thing that I want to send you home with as a sort of something physical that you can do to help the energy flow through all this is thymus tapping. Okay, so this is where I have my Sulis crystal here, right on my thymus. Okay, and if you feel like that you can't really get the right words out, or that it's hard for you to express how you're truly feeling, or even if it's just hard for you to feel, then besides things such as I am breathing, really working, breathing into your heart, you can tap your thymus, and this can be done, while you're in a business meeting, while you're talking to some. This stimulates your thymus, okay, and the neurotransmitters to calm your system down and to open up, this energy flow here. Okay, emotionally, I don't need to explain this to you again. Self-care, what this does, the biggest issue here will probably be inadequacy here for next week, to be triggered into an adequacy. That's why I've to feel inferior or to feel like powerless, and that it's all your fault, or that it's somebody else's fault. So it can trigger anxiety in people. It can trigger, this deep fear of rejection, this deep, also with it, in relationships, jealousy, envy, and all this. You got, being overprotective with your kids, sort of over controlling with everything, just, in out of fear. Okay, so I've mentioned this earlier, why this is not a good idea. However, it's understandable that if we don't take care of our basic needs, if we don't take care of our need to express our truth, okay, what happens is that we lose trust in ourselves. And as we lose trust in ourselves, we start beating ourselves up, or we start getting pulled into dramas, we're becoming defensive, so this next week you got to be a little careful. Even though the barometer is on green, which most of you, have been waiting for here for at least a month, it can be the time also, if you have issues in your relationship or with family, where you can easily get drawn into fights, because the barometer, even though it shows green, remember, this is an intensity measurement. It also shows a tendency towards escalation. And again here, escalation can be a good thing, okay? Because even if you explode and if you break out in a fight with somebody, at least it's coming out. So if you don't want things to be too explosive, if you want to do this a little more graceful, well, then you have to learn how to connect with your heart, how to breathe through your heart, and how to, really open all this energy up, how to clear all this. It's a week where I expect quite a bit of domestic violence, guys. Okay, so be careful there. Acknowledge your emotions, acknowledge other people's emotions, even if you disagree. You don't have to agree with someone to acknowledge their emotions, and watch your reactivity, okay? How, the intensity levels of your reactivity, because this week, that's not going to lead to anything good, okay? I know that most of you are still struggling with, understanding this, how, somebody really, can do certain things in justice, or, can be so mean, or can be, so bullying or whatever, because see, everybody has a different kind of emotional processing, and many of us, really think that our way of processing emotions is the only way, and this is completely wrong. As an energy worker, I can attest to you that everyone processes their emotions differently. There is something, that we all have in common, and that is, the neurotransmitter level, which kind of gives a predisposition as to like how we are responding to, grief, to pain, to fear, anger, and so forth. But how we ultimately contextualize our emotions is different for everyone. And in through coaching or through counseling, it's a really good time for that right now. You can learn this. You can learn more about these patterns that are involved, so you can understand. Oh man, yeah, just because I'm, the kind of person that processes emotions real quickly and more sort of on the sort of venting or blurring out type of way, doesn't mean that other people do it the same way. Just because they're not saying anything doesn't mean that they're not experiencing those same emotions. They may have to go through, a 2-3 day or week cycle to process their emotions before they can say something. And this plays into the social aspects here, the relationship aspects here. This will be the subject for all October, guys. All right, so remember that everyone has a different emotional processing. And, learning more about this really helps. From an energetic point of view, guys, there is no difference how a man or a woman processes emotions. There is a difference how we express our emotions. And that's the part that can be learned in coaching and counseling. Okay. Mentally, the tip for you next week is pay attention, to all these things that I've already sort of woven into the overall energies here for next week. Pay attention to others, pay attention to your own needs, their needs. Listen, and try to really get a better feeling for when you are reactive, because your goal is, on your overall journey here, to become responsive and not reactive. So reactivity pulls you back into your duality, pulls you back into your ego, pulls you back into your lower vibratory states. Responsiveness tunes you into the witnesser in you, the part in you that can experience something and, sort of feel out what the best way to work with this would be. Okay, responsiveness is also something that helps you with preparedness, is also something that helps you with adaptability. So how am I going to respond is probably the best tip I can give you here, like as a sort of self-coaching question for this next week. It's all about our way of being, guys. And, look at these identities, these false self-identities that you have, because the identities that we have, they often make us believe we should, or we ought to, or we have to respond in a certain way. No, you don't. Okay, you need to learn how to respond from your heart, and not from your mind, and not from your emotions, from your heart. Heart is not the same as emotions. The biggest sort of aha that most of you probably going to go through here next week is this sudden, recognizing how skewed your perception of normal, your perception of what is okay and what is acceptable and what isn't. So your ability to discern. And again here, remember, the complacency of your ego messes with your perception of normal. Don't beat yourself up. What you couldn't see in the past, you're not responsible for. Okay, but if you're starting to see this, or if maybe 2010 was the time where you started to see this, and you didn't follow through with what this insight or what this realization brought in for you, then you're going to be led back to this right now. Or if you started putting changes into action in March and then it sort of ran out of steam, go back. This is your job right now. Okay, this whole month of October. Socially, relationship wise, you already get it. There's a lot of stuff that will be coming forward. So for most of you, this green week may actually be a red week if you have not really been going into this place where you truly assess and take an inventory of how you react, to your partner, your reactiveness and the patterns and the identifications that are behind that. So for that, it may be a week of sort of, where things come to an explosion only, and this is the beautiful part of this, which is why I decided to make it a green week anyway, to have a beautiful reconciliation, to make amends, to have a beautiful sort of invite this energy of forgiveness in, and to make up, and to see that your partner is here to go through this journey with you together. That is the commitment that you have for another. That is the loyalty that you have for another. You don't, you can't control each other. You can't manipulate each other. That's when things go wrong. Okay, so to use your emotional processing, or your sensitivity of your emotions, to control other people, no, this is a shadow trait, guys. This is emotional manipulation. Okay, and even guilt tripping and bringing up the past over and over again. This is emotional manipulation. That's a shadow trait. Okay, that needs to be addressed. And if you come, to the place like, maybe my relationship isn't really the true, based on true love, and maybe, I should get divorced, or maybe, this is, just not working out for us, and you're starting to really see this. Before you do this, ask yourself, am I really accepting, my limitations and the limitations of my partner? And, is this truly based on mutually trying to work this out, or is this based on performance or how things ought to be? When you discover things in your partner that you don't fully like, or that you cannot fully accept, or that you disagree with, unless it's like really impacting your health, your safety, your when you don't feel safe with your partner emotionally or physically or mentally, then ask yourself, can I live with this? Or do I want to live with this? It's not your partner's fault that he or she has limitations. You have limitations too. It's not his responsibility to be a different person, identification, for you. No. Okay? This is about you guys learning how to do this together, how to individuate and yet to do this together at the same time. Okay, so the question is, am I okay with living with this? Can I live with this? And some things, like assault, physical violence, emotional manipulation, degradation, verbal bullying and stuff like that are never okay, guys. I'm just giving you this heads up here. They're never okay. Okay, so don't ask yourself, how can I be a better codependent, by learning how to suck this up better? No, this is not what I'm talking about. It's never okay, ever. Okay, so if you haven't gotten that yet, that your perception of what is normal and what is acceptable for you was skewed in the past, then take this week to consciously reflect on this. Yes, and spiritually, yep, guys, everything you think, everything you feel, everything every sentiment you have, every attitude that you have, everything that you do, everything that you choose determines your vibratory rate, determines where you're at on your journey. I don't care how spiritual you call yourself. If you're in a constant state of anger or fear, you are not very spiritual. Not to, use the word spiritual here as a benchmark, but this is not true. And I know many of you struggle with this. You in groups, or you're with the teachers and so forth, and and they preach all this forgiveness and blah, and you got to do, and then you just go on one rant, after another, being judgmental, being, degrading to people. No, this is not true, guys, and this is not something that you should accept as normal. It's not. Okay. Yes, a lot of things appear real to us, and I've said this in our, in the group of people that was in the Redemption Marathon with me last week. Everything we experience is real, guys, in the 3D as well as in the etheric, in the Aluna. That doesn't mean it's all true. Okay. Understand that, to this healing, this corrective healing that is coming in right now is all about your co-creatorship. So what I said about relationships here also refers on this larger level, the spiritual level, in your relationship with your environment, with the collective, with the dimension that you're in. And it just so happens that you are in a 3D dimension here, okay? And this is your task right now, okay? All places are here, all times are now, okay? And it's about learning how to do this together and how to devote yourself to what it is that you are finding yourself in right now, here and now. So what are you waiting for, guys? Spiritual maturity does not come from reciting, these spiritual phrases. It comes from implementing it into your 3D life. Yes, I'm reading your comments here. Everything is really starting to speed up here now. Yes. Hi, New Zealand, by the way. Yes. Connecting to the inner power and the inner trust feels to be the theme right now. Exactly. Thank you, Margot, for translating that, all this talk here for 45 minutes into a simpler, way of remembering this. It's all about alignment, and this leads me to the last subject here, the energetic tip for you. It's all about alignment, guys. And the way you align yourself. This seems so mystical for some people, but it's really not that hard. There is a reality that you're being exposed to, but the reality can have different colorations to it. Okay, so it can feel threatening, it can feel inviting, it can feel embracing, it can feel invigorating, it can feel degrading and contracting. The way you perceive this, guys, if you know how to stand in your heart, is exactly how it was meant. But when you're not in your heart, then you are not experiencing it on its truth level. You are experiencing it through your own agenda, through your own alignment. So the word alignment, energy alignment, has a lot to do with agenda, and you can see how things such as ego identifications and so forth, judgments, play directly into this, how they skew this. So energetically, and I want to repeat here the 3 pillars of self-healing, and this is something that we train with the self-healing community here at transCODES. It's clearing, so obviously you have to remove the stuff that keeps, sort of contaminating your energy, that keeps pulling you into these lower vibratory places, the darkness, sort of your own shadow. The second part is the connecting part. That's where you go into your heart and where you reset everything, and this is where the quickening comes in. Okay, this is why like connecting with your heart and clearing the layers around your heart is such a big theme here for this next week. The third part is the integration. This is where you have to allow all that to integrate to all these different layers of your energy body, and this is where most of us are not really graceful yet, where most of us kind of bail out, because we get pulled into the duality of our ego and the complacency of our ego, our comfort zone, and then we start finding justifications, and coming up with this sort of woo-woo stuff. Oh, I bet that meant I was supposed to do this and da-da-da-da-da. This is not based on truth, guys. It may not be untrue, okay, but this whole discussion about truth, okay, is something that you really need to do with yourself. Just because it's real doesn't mean it's true. All right, and last, if you are not into the etheric stuff, and if all this is sort of a bunch of weirdo talk, then just tune down now. Okay, don't forget to like the video and just don't go there, because this can feel a little disconcerting for people who don't have access to this. Those of you who have, who straddle in two worlds and who have a clear perception of what is going on in the etheric, guys. I want to, point this out here and also set another benchmark, because I'm getting all these emails and these questions over the years. If you were with me 10 years ago, 2010, then I talked a lot more about all the etheric stuff and the ghouls and the Aluna stuff and, all that, and how we perceive, this battle of light and dark. And, how some people, choose to become spiritual warriors, say, and how they choose to go in and fight the dark, okay? And why I'm not talking about this anymore so much, and why this is, why I'm going more mainstream. In fact, if you believe it or not, as a criticism, I am getting comments, why am I getting so mainstream? Okay, the answer is very simple. Because all this spiritual woo-woo talk is not going to help you guys to integrate this into 3D, to implement this into your real life. Okay, that's why. Does it mean that all these things don't exist anymore for me, or that I don't think it's worthy to talk about them anymore? No, if you're working with me, you can talk to me about this. And this is the big part of me being an energy coach here, the ability to go into the Aluna, into the etheric with a person and, in a shamanic way, and help them to deal with stuff on that level. But I'm not going to, go out here in the energy updates and blur out, guys, beware of the forces of the dark and the demons coming in. No. Why not? Because this is not helping. This is just triggering fear and, locking people into their lower vibratory alignment. Fighting the dark, guys, is not, an outspoken part of our spiritual maturity. There is a phase in our journey where we do this. And those of you who feel called to do this, go ahead and do this, and I will be more than happy to accompany you in this. But this phase has to end, because there is no end to it, and you can get suckered into trajectories there that that you are not equipped for. And so we have these intensives where we do energetic visioning, where we do etheric protection, and there's a lot of depth to that where we teach all this. Okay. But if you think that I'm going to sit out here just to get more viewers, and talk about all the, the demonic stuff that is out there, I'm not going to do this. Not because it's not there, not because it's not real, not because some of it isn't true, but because this isn't what we need to focus on. We need to focus on learning how to transcend the darkness within. Okay? And the demons that you see in the Aluna, the demons that attack you, for the most part, guys, 95% of those are part of your own shadow. This is why I'm talking about shadow and not demons. But I do want to contextualize this for those of you who are in this sort of consciousness development understanding. There are demonic forces, there are dark forces, yes, and they will exist for as long as light exists, for as long as the divine exists. But not because the divine isn't, is not dual, okay? It doesn't need that. It's just, the absence and the presence of light. So when there are places that, create sort of energetic fields where, there's an absence of light, hence the word shadow, something is blocking the light. Okay, then you will see fields of conglomerated darkness. You will see trajectories. You will see things that also where people get attracted to. Okay, you can even see this in cities, that there are certain parts of a city that are really dark, and they attract, people with unresolved shadows, or that have committed themselves to darkness. So, being an evil person is a choice. Okay, because we are ultimately all, part of divine creation. We're all part of light. Light is what brings us into existence, hence the co-creatorship. But we can decide, that we want to work against it. And in my experience, to fighting the dark, really just promotes this inner duality, this schism. And, it does not allow us to become more functional in 3D. On the contrary, it's a huge con job, it's a huge distraction, and people can get into a lot of trouble with this, all the way to a straitjacket, so this isn't conducive. This is why I don't talk about this. If you have a personal question, if you need me to give you tips, if there are protection tips or how to ward off or fight off something, then contact me, then have energy coaching with me. This is what I do for a living. Okay. Thank you, Matthew. So understand this here from a consciousness development point of view, that it is the duality of your ego that brings in the Luciferian aspect of yourself. And I'm not a particularly a religious person, but if you take the analogies, in the Bible and so forth, how Satan tempts a person. Read if you're if you're Christian or in your religion, read those passages, pay attention to them. What is it that is really being triggered in the person? Their own shadow. Okay. Luciferian doesn't mean evil. It means hurt. It means having been rejected, feeling rejected, feeling defensive, feeling, like I have to do something to compensate. I have to, create another identity to be loved by God again. You see how this plays directly into the hurt and unresolved stuff in us? It's about healing that. And therefore, darkness can be transcended in you and in our 3D collective here. No problem, but not by fighting against it. Do you sometimes have to fight? Yes. Do I recommend people to learn etheric fighting techniques? If they have the ability to discern, if they have sort of the input, they're seeing those kind of things, yes, I do recommend that. Do I recommend you to take this on as your reality? No, because it isn't. Thank you for chiming in, guys. Margot, yes, the demon and evil talk is used to create more fear. Just another tactic for control and manipulation. Yes, it is. And that's also why so many people who talk about demons and evil and darkness are actually agents of darkness. Okay, so it's all backwards, guys. All right, so this was my my little rant here for the week in regards to certain questions that I received. I hope you didn't jump the ship here and ran away. I'm still the same energy coach that I was just 45 minutes ago. So thank you very much for your attention here. Please check the sessions that we have at transCODES. I'm not monetizing these videos. I need you guys' support. This is actually the best way to support yourself and support me. But at least like the video, subscribe to my email list, come back next week, and let me know if this time, works better for you guys for the live stream. Thank you very much. Hope to see you.